Just a little warning before the video starts. I just want to say that there are a lot of heavy topics covered in this manga, such as sexual assault and suicide. So if any of those are a triggering subject for you, don't be afraid to click off the video. If you do decide to stick around, just keep that in mind, and without further ado, let us get started. Hello, it's been a while. Today I want to talk about Saihate ni Madou. This is a manga I stumbled upon when just the first 2 chapters were translated, and I was drawn in by the art. And needless to say, I was not ready for what was in store. Saihate ni Madou recently had its first volume translated, so I figured now would be the perfect time for me to talk about it and review it. For those that don't know, Saihate ni Madou is a manga written and illustrated by mangaka Momoya Mahato. Starting its release in January of 2023, the story premise is this. Kazuma is a man who was sentenced to jail for 7 years. His crime was murdering the man who drove his little sister, Yuri, to suicide. As he took the man's life, the image of the man's daughter watching the crime unfold was burned into Kazuma's mind. Once released from prison, he decides that taking his own life would be atonement for what he had done. You know, just your slight hint of emotional trauma. Seriously though, I love this manga and how it presents itself. It takes itself seriously, but in a good way, and it doesn't make light of any subject matter presented in the story whatsoever, and it's all treated respectfully and with the proper care that it deserves. With that in mind, let us go in depth about the story. AKA, this is going to be me covering every chapter, and I really don't know how to go in depth, so I'm just going to be spilling everything and giving my opinions on stuff, I guess. So, spoiler warnings ahead, and with very serious subject matters ahead, let us get started. Chapter 1 starts off with a simple sentence. I killed someone 7 years ago. This sets the tone perfectly right off the bat. We then get a scene of our main character, Kazuma, leaving the prison, saying that he can finally die. We see that his mom is waiting for him to pick him up. We see that he has a lot of guilt for the actions that he has done, and this will be a recurring theme throughout the manga. They go and visit Yuri's grave, and we learned about what happened. Yuri was sexually assaulted by her teacher. We learned that the teacher had been creeping on her prior, and that the day that he did the action was because Kazuma couldn't go and pick Yuri up that day. Which just shows us really what a creep the teacher was. I mean, waiting for Yuri to be alone to do disgusting behavior. Afterwards, Yuri takes her own life, and in her suicide note, she entails what the teacher had done to her. Kazuma snaps and decides to take the teacher's life, knowing that it'll ruin his life, the lives around him, and the teacher family's lives. We see him go back to Yuri's grave, only to see a little girl there, wondering who she is. He gets an air of familiarity with her, and goes home. He has a nightmare about murdering said teacher, and he sees the teacher's daughter there. He wakes up and realizes that the girl that he saw at the grave was probably the teacher's daughter. So he decides to look up the case online, and he finds that the daughter's name is Shika, and that she stays at an orphanage that his mother works at, only to realize that the girl there was Shika, and then we see her walk into the room. This is a really good first chapter. I don't have much to say about it, because it is just like a first chapter, and it's more so setting the tone and setting the atmosphere and everything of it, but I like how we get, I guess, little sprinkles of what's to come. We see that Kazuma is racked with guilt. Now, we find out later what the guilt is, but we see here that it's laid out for us already, and I like that, and it is further elaborated on. I also just like how it focuses on very grim, very distressing subject matters, and it does so respectfully, because there are plenty of manga that do focus on the horrors of reality and things like that, but I really like how this one is doing it. It feels too real at moments, but that's really all I can say about chapter 1, is that I really like how it presents itself here. It sets the tone wonderfully, the art is beautiful, and it leaves you with an air of mystery and wondering just what's going to happen next. Chapter 2 starts off with Kazuma's mom explaining why Shika is there. Shika is staying at the orphanage that she is working at, and we find out that she'll be staying with Kazuma and herself for the weekends. We learn that Kazuma's mom didn't tell Shika about what Kazuma had done, so he can relax around her. We see that his mom holds an exorbitant amount of trauma and guilt, learning that she feels like she failed both Kazuma and Yuri. In her eyes, her atonement for all of her quote-unquote failures is to take care of kids like Shika and other orphans. We see Shika overhearing the entire conversation. Kazuma believes that he is a burden, that he only makes people miserable, so he's adamant about taking his own life. He also believes that Shika could be out for revenge, and he has a nightmare yet again, starting off with him murdering the teacher, but this time turning into Shika taking his own life. Kazuma wakes up from this, and decides to get a glass of water, and we see that Shika is holding a knife. Kazuma, desperate enough to protect his own mother, tells Shika that if she were out for revenge, to just kill him and leave his mom alone, practically begging her to take his life. This chapter really made me like the manga. I was liking it beforehand with the first chapter, but it was just the first chapter and I was just establishing things. But here we get to understand the characters more, and we see first and foremost just how much the guilt is racking Kazuma. We see him just, he's so desperate to die. He feels so guilty about everything that he's begging an elementary schooler to take his own life. That, and he's also wanting to protect his mother, and that's part of the reason why he feels like he should die. He feels like that if he dies, he would be protecting his mother, he would be protecting those that he does love. He feels like that would be proper atonement for what he had done in his eyes and everything like that. And it really just sets the tone. We also see that Shika, a lot of the panels here, we can't tell if she's just a normal kid or if she is out for revenge. And I really like how the manga frames it, because it really does make us sit down and wonder, what is her goal? Is she really just a normal kid? Does she really want revenge? We don't know. And I really like that aspect. This chapter is great. I mean, even learning about Kazuma's mother, how she feels guilty for not being able to protect Kazuma and Yuri, it just proves that everybody in this story is just messed up. Everybody is not doing good. They all feel some sort of guilt, some sort of trauma. Nobody can just, I guess, not move on, but nobody can accept the fact that nobody's guilty or anything like that. And I like that. It's such a good depiction of guilt and everything like that. It's a bit too visceral at points, but I like that. So yeah, great chapter. Chapter 3 starts off where we left off, and with Shika saying that she has no idea what Kazuma is talking about, that she just wanted to cut up an apple. Kazuma, waking the next morning, feeling guilt over the situation that just unfolded, decides yet again that dying would be atonement for everything that he had done. His mom asks if he wants to go out to eat, which he says no out of fear that he'll be badmouthed, that his mother will be badmouthed. She says that she's just glad that he's back, and she doesn't care what others say, that she just wants to spend time with him. So he decides to go out, and we see he, his mom, and Shika out for lunch, with Kazuma nervous to even be around people, out of fear that they'll speak bad about him or his mother. Eventually, they start to act like a family, only for Kazuma to hear voices speak ill of him. While this is happening, we see his mother say that she's thinking about adopting Shika into the family, only for Kazuma to keep hearing the voices berate him, and hear his own sister say, "Brother, won't you die for me already?" Everything overwhelms him and he proceeds to vomit, only to realize that everything was in his head, that nobody was saying anything. They leave and decide to head over to a mountain since it had been a while since Kazuma had seen it, and this leads Kazuma to wonder if them being a family was a gift from God before he dies. They head home, and Kazuma's mother asks if he's fine, and Kazuma responds that he is. The next day, Shika's going back to the orphanage due to it being a weekday, and is going to school. Kazuma says he wants to visit Yuri's grave today, which was really just a front for him to write a suicide note, which we see him do. He goes to Yuri's grave and leaves a note there. We see Shika ask him what he was doing. She grabs the note, tears it up, and says that she won't let him die. This chapter right here was a really tough one for me to read. It's such a visceral and real depiction of anxiety and suicidal thoughts and everything like that. I mean, the scene of him in the diner with his family, thinking that he's hearing these voices when he's really not, is way too realistic of a depiction of anxiety as a whole. It's not sugarcoating it, it's not trying to make it out to be a cutesy thing or anything like that. It's showing anxiety for what it really is, and how overwhelming it really can be. And I really like the fact that the mangaka did not make light of it at all. And we also just the suicide note scene really destroyed me, because just seeing Kazuma write the note and think of his mother and just have a breakdown was way too realistic, and I had to take a break, because I mean, obviously we know that suicide is not a light subject in the slightest, but a lot of people, I guess, don't think about how serious it is and how much thought goes behind it. I mean, we see that Kazuma is adamant about taking his own life and is planning on doing so, but even when he is doing so, he knows that it'll upset his mother, despite him thinking that it's going to be the best thing for her and everything, and so he just has a breakdown, and it's just like, it's too realistic, because suicide is just, I guess, a multifaceted problem. You know, you feel so tired with life and you feel like it's going to be the best option, but at the same time, you know you're going to be hurting people, so you feel guilty for even thinking about doing it or going through it or anything like that, and it's just too realistic, and I like how realistic of a depiction it is. This chapter really just shows how, not far gone, but how gone Kazuma is. You just see how how he's not doing well, how he's not coping with anything, that he's really adamant about dying, that he feels like such a burden and everything like that, that taking his own life would be the best. And I don't know. I just really like that aspect. Well, I won't say like. I really like how it shows how realistic of a thing it is. But this chapter is a terrific one. I really, really, really like it. It was way too real and made me cry, and it was very good. In chapter 4, we see Shika elaborate on why she won't let Kazuma die. She doesn't want his mom to be upset, and she wants them to become a family. Here, Kazuma tells Shika that they shouldn't become a family because he killed a man, and that's why he needs to die. And here we see Shika just hug him, which Kazuma feels comforted and even thinks that it's Yuri. Afterwards, Shika takes her to her orphanage. Kazuma is curious as to why she doesn't go to school, and as he asks, he notices that it visibly shakes her, to which Big Brother mode kicks in and he tries to comfort her, only for Shika to want Kazuma to join her sitting in bed. She explains that whenever she has a bad day, she goes here to calm down, and even says that Kazuma can come here to calm down, and even shows Kazuma a plushie, to which we see Kazuma smile for the first time. Shika elaborates on why she wants Kazuma to live, because she sees him as family. Kazuma goes back home and tells Shika to head to school. Back home, we learn that Shika was at the orphanage because both of her parents died early, and family members that she was staying with just didn't get along with her, so she was sent to the orphanage. Shika was sitting alone at a park one day, and Kazuma's mom walked up to her, and Shika resembled Yuri to Kazuma's mom, to which she hugged Shika, and they talked, and they started to open up to each other. Kazuma's mom asked Kazuma to go pick up Shika from school. Here, we see Shika getting bullied, and we see Shika getting hit. Kazuma wants to intervene, but is nervous with flashbacks of the murder flowing back to him. The bullies push Shika down a hill, and Kazuma finally steps in because it reminds him of Yuri. He steps in and gets a little aggressive, to which Shika steps in to calm him down. Kazuma apologizes, but Shika just thanks him for saving her. Shika asks Kazuma to protect her from now on, which Kazuma struggles with, but accepts to keep living on for Shika. They stop at a convenience store, to which Shika gets a drink. We see that she knows about Kazuma. We see that she knows that he murdered her dad. In this chapter, I like how we see, I guess, multiple sides of the characters. I mean, especially with the bullying scene, where Kazuma intervenes, or rather, whenever he's waiting on intervening. I like how we see that he's nervous to intervene because he's worried he'll harm them, and then whenever he does intervene, he does almost harm them. And I like how it shows that he is just struggling with his emotions that much, because that is a symptom of, like, depression and suicidal tendencies and everything like that. But I like that because it also shows how protective of an individual he is. He wants to protect, but he's worried about doing so because he's worried that he'll injure someone again, because he couldn't protect, well, he feels like he couldn't protect Yuri, and so he murdered the teacher in some form of protection. And I guess Big Brother mode kicked in here, and I really like that. And this chapter just really does make us wonder where exactly Shika is at, because it does seem like that she's just a normal girl, but then learning that she knows that Kazuma murdered her dad makes us wonder, is she out for revenge? Or did she just research Kazuma just out of curiosity, and she doesn't care that she murdered, or rather that he murdered her dad? We don't know, and I really like that. I really like this chapter because it shows us more in depth about the characters than the previous chapters. We learn more about Shika. We learn more about just why she wants Kazuma to live, why she's seemingly okay with Kazuma, that she wants to be a family. And we see a side of Kazuma that we haven't seen, I guess Big Brother mode, as I'll call it, or whatever, how he's trying to be so protective of someone that he might go a little too far, and I really like that aspect of it. Chapter 5 is essentially Kazuma just wondering why Shika approached him in the first place, and has him conflicted on wanting to protect her and wanting to know more. He doesn't want to ask her more because he doesn't want to ruin the aspect of family, but he wants to know more. We learn from Kazuma's mom that there is a Christmas party going on at the orphanage, and that she wants Kazuma to help out, to which he decides to do. We learn that one of the bullies that Shika has is also an orphan at the orphanage. Kazuma finds Shika hiding off in a closet, to which he explains why he's there, and Shika basically convinces Kazuma to dress up as Santa. Later, the bully sets Kazuma aside and explains to him that Shika only brings misery. Here, Kazuma realizes that he's not just living to atone for his sins, but he's also living to protect Shika, to protect his mother. And he recollects that he's having fun at this moment, and finally enjoying life for the first time in who knows how long. We see that Shika and the bully were getting into it, and we find out that Shika had gone missing, so Kazuma goes to look for her. Kazuma finds Shika and the bully, only for the bully to be visibly injured, holding her ear with blood in her hand. Shika repeats what the bully had said, that she only brings misery, and she starts running off, apologizing. thus ending Volume 1. In this chapter, I like how we see Kazuma not really struggling with Shika, but rather kind of struggling with wanting to protect her. He wants to protect her and be, this big brother figure, but at the same time, he wants to know more about her, but is scared to ask more and fears of driving her away. And I like how we see this internal turmoil, because we get to see he's so adamant about wanting to protect her that he doesn't want to drive her away on accident, because he does want to be there for her, and I really like that aspect. I also like the orphanage scene, because we get to see him be happy for the first time in who knows how long. As I mentioned, probably 7 years, I would assume. We get to see him enjoying life for the first time. We get to see all the kids at the orphanage be happy. We get to see Shika and his mother just enjoying their time there. And it's really just wholesome fun. The scene with the bully also intrigues me, because I do wonder where that's going to go. Because we see that Shika obviously believes that she brings misery to others. So we see that she's struggling with trauma as well. So yet another broken character in this story of just broken people. And I like that aspect. And I'm curious to see if it was a setup by the bully, if Shika really did injure her or what. I'm curious. And I really honestly cannot wait to see where this ends up going. With Volume 1 of this manga complete, I can safely say that I thoroughly enjoy this manga, and it's already one of my favorites because I like how visceral and realistic it is. It has such realistic depictions of depression, suicide, anxiety, and just copious amount of trauma and guilt. And it doesn't make light of any sort of topic brought up in the manga. It doesn't make light of anything, and it shows it for how it really is, and I really respect that fact. I like how it doesn't shy away from such things. I really do like that aspect. A lot of people are saying how this is a cursed manga, but honestly, I'd say it's the opposite. I'm not saying it's blessed or anything, because it is super bleak and depressing, but it paints a very vivid and harrowingly beautiful picture. I really do love how it's such a realistic depiction of guilt, depression, and grief. And like I mentioned in Chapter 3, I had to take a break from reading it because it was too realistic of a depiction of a suicidal person, and it really does not shy away from these types of things. The story being presented here is to be taken extremely seriously, and I'm really interested to see where it's going to go with Chapter 6 and the next volume, and I'm interested to see, I'm hoping to see these characters kind of heal and grow through each other, and, have this nice little family dynamic going on and everything like that. I really cannot wait to see where this is going to go. If you like, I guess, psychological-esque stuff, like psychological, I won't say this, psychological drama, psychological thriller. If you like very depressing and bleak stories that'll leave you messed up, this is definitely the manga for you. I definitely don't recommend it to everyone because it is a very intense manga to read, but I really do recommend it if you like these types of stories. So I'm very interested to see where it's going to go. I hope it keeps going the direction of them growing and becoming a family. I hope it doesn't go in any other direction. If it goes a revenge route, that would be very distressing. So I hope it keeps going in this direction. And yeah, one other aspect that I really like about this manga is just the art. The art is really what drew me in the first place, and it's just so beautiful to look at. The mangaka is really putting their all into what they are drawing, and it really shows. A lot of the panels here say 1,000 words when it's just a simple shot of a face, and I just love it so much. It's such a beautiful manga in more ways than one as well. Thank you for watching if you did. I know it's been a while. My AC broke, and that took 3 weeks to get fixed, and then I got depressed, so, it's been a bit, but I'm back, hopefully. I was actually going to do a completely different video. I was going to do an Usagi drop video, but I was like, you know what? This volume just finished, so I'm going to do this instead, because I really want to talk about it, and I hope that it was entertaining. I know that it was really just me giving, a plot summary, and then me just giving kind of, my opinions on it and whatnot, but that's really the only way I can, recap and, I guess, review it, because, I don't know, this story, I can't verbalize how much I love it, because it's just really good. I really do like how real it is, and everything like that. Yeah, so I'm back, plan on being back, I think. Hope the video was entertaining. There are any critiques, criticisms, whatever, let me know. I'm more than interested to hear them, so I can make content better. So yeah, thank you for watching if you did. I hope you have a good day.
Bye bye!